musically.
Hello and welcome to Relationship Soup. I'm your host, Lisa Hughes. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you all are having a fantastic week. My week is good so far. I really can't complain. I'm glad to be feeling better. That cold was a fool. You hear me? I miss All-Star Weekend and everything. But I seen y'all pictures. Y'all was cute. Looks like Indy did its thing this weekend. So anyway, thank y'all for joining me. If you have not done so, please make sure that you are liking, subscribing, joining our platform, YouTube Relationship Soup period, on Facebook Relationship Soup Group, and then we on Instagram too, Relationship Soup. All right. All right. So let's go ahead and get into today's show. So there's gonna be some chances for y'all to win some stuff today too. So make sure that you are tuning in and listening. All right. So this show, I really wanted to open the floor up, right? The guest that I have, you've seen him before. He is a life consultant. He's a lot of things actually. He goes by Coach Boyd. And so I wanted to open the floor up for all of our listeners to be able to ask questions. So this is going to be like a life session. So you can ask whatever questions that you want. Health, life, career, whatever, right? With this episode, we really just want to open the floor, allow you the opportunity to get some guidance, some light, right? Because listen, Jason is a dynamic soul, Coach Boyd is a dynamic soul, and he can definitely shed some light on some things. So I'm going to go ahead and bring him on. Hey, Coach, how are you?
Peace, peace, Sister Lisa. How you doing?
I'm blessed. Cannot
Nice.
complain. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I cannot complain. Very blessed. Very blessed. Thank you.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So, as always, thank you so much for joining me. And look, I'm going to thank you in advance for the knowledge and wisdom you're going to share with us today.
It is my absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. I appreciate you having me on. All praise due. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So, if you could remind our guest, right, just tell them who you are.
Well, I'm a life consultant, life coach, here in the Indianapolis area. I'm also a holistic healer. I do body work. I'm a mentor. I'm a football and basketball and volleyball coach. I'm a football and volleyball and basketball referee. Um, I'm an activist for my people, trying to help the black community just to be better with one another and to adjust in this wilderness that they call America that we're constantly trying to survive in. And someone that people can always count on to be there for them. Like I said, I'm always advocating for my people, especially for the kids. Um, that's pretty much about it.
Okay. Well, that's what's up. So, hold on. Let's talk about these prizes right quick. Now,
Yes, ma'am.
we promoted them. We've been talking about them, right? So one of the prizes is a one-on-one session with you, 15 minutes, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Then we have, since you are a massage therapist, we have where there's a discount on a massage, 60-minute massage session with you, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And
Yes,
then
ma'am.
you got some books.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And I have books for the. I have books. My book, the reasons why relationships suck, but dating is worse. I have some
Great
free
book.
giveaways. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So make sure you guys are tuning in and you get a chance to win a book. I'll definitely autograph it for you. And if you have any questions or anything, feel free to ask. For those of you who have the book already and may have not had a chance to ask me any questions about it, feel free to ask anything that you would like to.
That's it. I've read the book. We've talked about it. Listen, that's all I got to say. If y'all ain't read it, listen. If y'all don't win it tonight, then y'all need to get it. And I will share a link at the end of the show. So make sure that you are liking us across all platforms so that way that enters you into winning the
Now, Miss Lisa,
possibility
what
of
did you
winning.
like about the book?
Look, everything. No, you know what? I something that really resonated with me because it was the part where you were talking about it started with when you said that most relationships are going to fail, and then you went in and you talked it about you not talked it. You spoke about the different like the process for even getting into a relationship and getting out of a relationship, and that getting out part that really resonated with me,
Yes,
right?
ma'am. Yes,
Just
ma'am.
even taking the time to think about things, and then the part where you said basically, I'm paraphrasing and you can correct me. Look, I ain't beyond being corrected. When you said something about how it kind of takes away from your hope, kind of like when you stand, like when you're consistently exposing yourself to these bad situations without going through the process of really thinking about them, right?
Yes,
That
ma'am.
really, really resonated with me. And it's
Yes,
some other
ma'am.
things too. But,
Right.
just right off the cuff, that was
Right.
one of the things right here.
And and I won't say that most relationships fail. I would say that more are unsuccessful than successful.
That's it.
Yes, ma'am. And I won't even now that I have a chance to think about it, I won't even say that they're unsuccessful. They may not have been what exactly you wanted them to be, but they're all learning experiences. I think most of us end up going through the process one too many times because we're not learning from the previous relationship. Too often the relationship when we break up, when it's over, there's such a bad taste in our mouth or such bad feelings involved in that we're just trying our best to just not think about it, not deal with it. And in that you're not necessarily learning how it got to that point. Most
Mhm.
people just blame the other person. Well, they did this and they did this, and they're not taking as much accountability as they should, which hinders the learning process. If you don't take any accountability, then you're definitely not going to learn from it. And that's why the cycle continues for so many of us because we're not really learning as much as we should from the unsuccessful relationships.
That's very true. That's very true. So, yeah, that's what I
So,
liked about it. I like when you
okay,
said that in the book.
okay. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes,
And
ma'am.
and,
And
you
I
know go ahead.
go
I have
ahead.
a
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, I really do wanna get that book club started because even though I know that your target may have been, like, maybe, a certain, like, age group of women, I still feel like this knowledge can still, you know, work, so
Absolutely. Absolutely. It wasn't just women that was my primary target, but men,
right,
I've had a
primary.
lot of men who've read it and they liked it. They understood a lot of things that where I was coming from with that. Because it's not a book bashing men by any stretch of the imagination, but I wanted to empower my sisters. I think right now we are going through a bit of a civil war between the men and the women
Mhm.
because in order to empower one group, there's too much bashing of the other group. If the men are trying to empower themselves, they're bashing the sisters. If the sisters are trying to empower themselves, they're bashing the men. And nobody's gaining any ground as far as understanding of not only the part that they play in it, but the part that the women play or the part that the men play. Right now everybody just trying to stand on what they call business. Everybody's trying to stand on, this is how I feel and it doesn't matter how anybody else feels. And that's what it is. Most people want to be right,
Mhm.
and there's really no prize in being right. That's the biggest thing. Everybody wants to be right, and I always ask people, well, what do you win for being right? And usually the more right that you want to be, the more you end up hurting someone else, because most people aren't, they're not dialoguing in a positive fashion to try to come to some understandings or to understand someone else's truth. They just want to be heard. And
Mhm.
in that, it becomes a shouting match. It becomes bitter. It becomes a lot of negative energy. And that's really killing us as a community right now.
Agreed. Definitely, I agree with that. And I think that if you can kind of have these different disagreements without trying to be right, because I have no desire to be right. My brother had shared with me many years ago. He had a friend that got divorced, and he was like, "You know what? Listen, if I could give you any advice, don't try to be right. Like, because you don't win. Don't try to win. Don't try to be right. Don't try to win because you
Yes,
lose."
ma'am. Yes,
And so,
ma'am.
and I like what you said the last time, because even with being right, there's a responsibility that automatically kind of comes with that. That's you mentioned that.
Exactly.
So yeah, but I think understanding is key. And I think if you have like the emotional maturity, you know, realize that understanding is the key. Not that we can't be human, and sometimes it can get a little weird, but yeah. So anyway.
And honestly, you just touched on something very very poignant, that we don't have the maturity. And the maturity comes with the wisdom. There's knowledge, there's wisdom, there's understanding. We can't get to understanding. People may even have the knowledge of it, but the wisdom is the time spent and how you are reflecting, how you are educating yourself in that time. And most people just jump from here to there, and they're not really taking the time to reflect or even understand the knowledge that's been bestowed upon them from previous relationships, from previous encounters. They're not taking the time to reflect and actually do the math on that. So it's so much harder for them to get to the understanding, and they just keep on rehashing the same thing with different people, different times, different words, different houses, different cities, but it's still the same process.
Different body, absolutely, absolutely. So hold on. So Jaleesa is back. She says, "Please give me one. Amazon don't like." Listen, Lisa said, "Give her one." All right, we
I
see
got
you.
you.
We see you. We see you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And I can say me personally, before we get into these questions, me personally, I would say my divorce, because I always try to be a student and learn, right?
Yes, ma'am.
But my divorce and the loss, just the great losses that I had last year, that really put me into a mode of, look, I really got to do a knowledge of self. I really need to look at patterns and lessons and get, help with different things, because, I definitely want to make sure that moving forward in this chapter, this new chapter, that I'm not repeating any patterns, and that, that I'm able to even pinpoint within myself that might need some growth, so
Absolutely. Absolutely.
because
And the
like
hardest part about that is a lot of times we want to pinpoint them. It is best to talk to someone and to be able to be honest and upfront with that person, as well as them being honest and upfront with you, and that that person is knowledgeable. They're just not spouting out a lot of things that they learned in school, or there's somebody that just has a platform or whatnot. I tell a lot of people, if you're going to get a counselor, if you're going to get a therapist, if you're going to get a coach, the first thing that you really must do is do your research on this person.
yes.
Understand who they are. Too many
Mhm.
people go to someone who's popular. and they don't really understand the spirit that is driving and moving that person. And now your spirit and their spirit aren't really matching up. It's just someone that you want to talk to. You've honestly got to do this type of research on the people. I've worked in IPS. I work with children, and the one thing that I've noticed, or that I do know, in order to be effective, you have to be preordained by God. You have to. That's one of the biggest things that our people are missing in all of this process is there's no God. Everybody, they'll go off of degrees or
Mhm.
certifications and popularity and things of that nature. But what type of person is this? How does this person submit to God? And
That,
most people don't look for that in somebody that they're going to confide in, and that's huge.
that is very huge. That's very huge because there was a guest a few weeks ago that talked about when they had received like therapy as a kid, that the therapy really didn't help them, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And but I think that it's also key with the person that you are having the therapy with because, I've definitely experienced therapy and I will tell you, you better do your research. You
Absolutely.
absolutely do your research.
Absolutely.
But I've been blessed with support now. I mean, my bishop,
Nice.
Bishop Larry Grinstead, he's one of my counsel, one of my peoples.
Nice.
Because,
Nice. Nice.
you
Nice.
need that. You need that.
Absolutely.
I don't want no mess
Absolutely.
people around me. I want people that's gonna tell me the truth, people that are gonna compliment not only quality of life but growth, right? Because
Absolutely.
I'm not opposed to growing. And I can't be around people that don't want to grow because we just not gonna work, not as friends.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
All right, so look, check it. Let's go ahead and get into a couple of well, let me ask you this, because this was a question that came up. Um, what's the difference between like a life coach and a therapist? What'd you say?
Um, they're they're all the same.
Mhm,
It's flammable and inflammable.
mhm, mhm,
Um, everybody's approach is different. Even life coaches, every life coach isn't going to be the same. Every therapist isn't going to be the same. Every counselor isn't going to be the same. So, um, the difference with me as a life coach as opposed to a therapist,
mhm,
when you deal with most therapists who have credentials behind them, they go to a school.
mhm,
And in order for that school to obtain money from them, they create a curriculum. And the curriculum can't be like anybody else's curriculum, or they'll just go to somebody else's curriculum. So now they've created a curriculum trying to be different than everybody else. Not
mhm,
necessarily effective, but just different. So a lot of times you'll get therapists, and like the your guest said before, that when they went as a child, it was really wasn't effective. A lot of times therapists, and not all therapists, there are some great therapists out there. I'm not bashing therapists. There are some phenomenal therapists out there, but too often it's not necessarily a calling, it's
mhm,
more of a job. They went to school for it, they got accredited in it. So the way that you learn is the way you put it back out to the people. And there are a lot of therapists that aren't fluent enough to be able to tap into who their patient is. They've learned certain catchphrases, certain buzzwords, certain ways to be able to help someone else. So, in order to help somebody else, they are constantly trying to put you into a category that they learned about. So they're not necessarily learning you, they're trying to fit you into a category. So now they're almost forcing certain words and certain ideologies and certain ways to think on you in order to help you. So a
mhm,
lot of times you'll come out almost more confused than when you went in, because they're trying to force a thought process on you in order to fit into one of the categories that they've learned about. And that can become invasive, it become alienating, and it just doesn't feel good most of the time, because you're coming to this person to be vulnerable. Now, me as a coach, the first thing that I do, well, I won't say the first thing that I do, but my main objective is to learn your language. I
mhm,
believe everybody speaks their own language. Even if all of us are speaking English, every person has their own ideology about words and nuances and how they use this, and this word might mean this but it doesn't mean that. So my job is to study you, and once I study you, then I can learn your language, and once I learn your language, we can have a conversation. If I don't know your language, we can't speak.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
now we're talking at each other, or I'm listening, but I'm not hearing you. So
Mhm.
I've got to learn your language first, and everybody has their own language. That's why it's so important to be consistent with your therapist or your counselor or your coach so they can learn you, because that really is their job. It's not about, in my experience, you can't teach anybody anything. The best thing that you can do is create an atmosphere for them to learn.
Mhm. Mhm.
So to create that atmosphere, I need you to be as comfortable as possible. And to be comfortable, I've got to be able to speak your language as opposed to trying to make you speak mine.
Mhm. That makes sense. That makes sense. All right, so let me go ahead and get into a couple of these questions. So in the group, I had posted, I made a post that invited some members to ask questions.
Okay.
Um, so let's go ahead and attack those first. All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Uh, One of the first questions was, why is healing so hard?
I believe healing is hard because what caused the trauma, what caused the pain in the first place
Mhm.
is when you were vulnerable.
Mm,
And in order to heal, you have to once again become vulnerable. And that's hard to do. Once you've been hurt, you spend most of your time trying to cover up, trying to protect yourself. So you've got a hard shell now. And to heal, you're actually going to have to remove that shell. You're going to have to remove that protection of yourself. So you've been like this for so long, but in order to heal, you've got to open up. A lot of people have spent a lot of time trying to create a wall around themselves so people can't get in, so things can't get in to hurt them. But at the same time, they can't get out.
mhm,
So when you can't get out, you can't heal. And it's a scary thought to be that vulnerable. That's one of the biggest reasons why men don't go to counselors and therapists and things of that nature, because we have to be vulnerable.
mhm,
And
mhm,
it's hard to pick when you're going to be vulnerable. It's hard to say, I'm going to be vulnerable on Tuesday at 3 o'clock.
mhm.
It doesn't really quite work that way, especially if you spent a lifetime or spent a long time trying to protect yourself. So
Mhm.
now to go to a stranger in a strange place and just open up and be vulnerable, that is not the easiest thing to do.
I can
That
see
is
that.
that is hard,
Yeah.
especially for men. I'm not saying it's not hard for women, but for men it's hard. And then what compounds that is, say for instance, you do open up. Say you
Mhm,
are vulnerable at 3 o'clock on Tuesday. It's an hour-long session. So by 5 o'clock, you're back on the street again. But
mhm,
you've just been vulnerable. You've just opened up. So now, how do you get all of this back in to go back out and face the world? You don't want to just face the world and you're in a vulnerable state. That's hard to do. Now you're vulnerable. You've opened up. You've spilled everything out. Now you're pushed back out there. That's
mhm.
hard to do, especially if
That's
you don't have a safe place at home, if you don't have people in your life who can create that safe place for you. Now you're just running around as a raw nerve ending.
mhm.
And for men, that's scary because if we're in our feelings, if we're vulnerable, we can very easily become volatile.
I can see that. Okay, okay. All right, so we have a few other questions. So another question is, why do men and women invest so much energy in proving that they can exist without one another? Why not invest that same energy into being together?
Honestly, sadly enough, in the black community, we haven't seen enough examples of it working together.
Mm. Mhm. Mhm.
So the one thing that you do know is your life is your own. Just like your dreams, this is your life.
Mhm.
Even if you share it with someone, it's still your life. And so many of us have not had good experiences with sharing it with someone. I think a lot of it starts, sadly enough, in the last 25, 30, 40 years, 50 years. It started in the home. A lot of us don't have that support from home, enough to be able to look forward to it from someone else. So when you don't have those type of relationship with mom, with dad, with our sisters, with our family, and then you go to a stranger, a lot of times we're just setting ourselves up for failure. So if you
Mhm.
go through enough bad situations, it's like I can do bad by myself. So now, and that's not what we're meant to do. God put us here to be with someone.
Mhm.
That is what this is. That's why he made us the way that he made us. It's the balance between men and women. When you're by yourself, you are unbalanced. God made woman to go with man. He made man to go with woman. That's how you become your best self. So, but a lot of us haven't seen that.
Mhm.
And we've tested the waters, especially at early ages when we weren't we weren't whole. We weren't ready for those experiences, but we needed them.
Mhm.
And we've tested the waters and it hurt. It felt bad. And that's where more trauma came from. So we've dealt with childhood trauma, then we deal with the trauma of a relationship. And after a while, it's like, to hell with this. I don't even want to do this no more. I'll find somebody to play with every so often when I'm bored or I just need some company or whatever. But as far as sharing my life with them, for a lot of people, that's just not, it hasn't been their experience and it hasn't been a good experience. They haven't really even seen too many people who've had a prolonged good experience in that. So,
That makes sense. All right, so Tonality Records, Maurice, he says men are groomed in society not to be vulnerable.
absolutely. Absolutely. We're not supposed to be, because as men, if we're vulnerable, we quickly can become prey. Men deal with other men,
Mm,
and other men will prey on you when they see that you're vulnerable, especially in this world. In this world, in this wilderness we call America, where we are the descendants of prisoners of war, we as men have been prey a lot, especially black men.
mhm,
We are under the thumb a lot. We are prey. So to let your guard down is, that's not something that we look forward to. That's not something that we're even trying to explore too often.
mhm,
Sadly, once you get into a relationship, you almost have to let your guard down. And if you're not used to letting your guard down, and then you get with a woman and you don't know how broken you are until you try to love someone and someone tries to love you, then everything you've been covering up comes out.
mhm,
So
mhm,
that's why it's very hard for men to heal and to open up, but honestly, we need it the most.
mm. Okay, I can see that. Next question. Do we all battle with this thing called ego? Okay. And what do we need to do um, to correct this innermost thing?
Um, yeah, we all battle with ego. Ego is our desire to be heard, to be seen, to be looked upon a certain way. Um, but it's not necessarily a good thing in most situations. Ego can give you a certain type of bravado, it can give you a certain type of comfort, it can give you a certain type of just willing to go out there and do what needs to be done. But too often, ego unchecked will turn on you. Most people, most of the time, we are in situations where our ego takes over. Like we talked about earlier, we're trying too hard to be right. And really, what you should be striving for is righteousness. It's not about being right, it's about being righteous. And when you're striving more for righteousness, your ego will start to take a back seat. It will start to tune down a little bit, because when you're righteous, God reveals certain things for you. When you're on the ego, you're trying to find things. You're trying to do a little bit too much. And most of the time, the energy that you receive when your ego is in charge is not really good energy. the energy you put out there when your ego is in charge is not really good energy. So now you, instead of being righteous, you're just trying to be right by any means necessary. So when the ego takes effect, when the ego takes hold, it's easy to hurt other people, especially people that you care about. And you may not be trying to. That might not be your intention, but that's usually the outcome.
That makes sense. Hmm. All right. Well, I see you. I see you, knowledge. Okay. So, another question is, why do you think when I'm good to women, they want to play me for a simp or want me to be perfect and put up with their many imperfections? But they love my bad side enough that I'm more of the dude you cheat with, not the one you cheat on.
Um, that might be the women that you're picking. That
Mhm,
might be the women that you're picking. Where are you finding these type of women at? There are a lot of the probably the biggest problem that goes on in the dating field is so many unhealed people that are out here hooking up.
mhm, mhm,
So it's not about sipping. Now women do, a lot of women do like a certain type of a man. They like a man that is a little bit, I don't want to say cocky, but is assured of himself and can back it up with things that he's been through and who he is or whatnot. But too often men are called simps because they try to be nice to women.
mm,
And that's what a lot of women do want, but they don't want somebody that they can walk over, somebody
yes,
that they can just out talk or control, because women innately are looking for a protector. So if I can talk bad to you, if I can do this, so a lot of times it's just a test. But sadly, the women don't. I've watched a lot of women test men, but they don't know what the test yields. They're
mm,
just testing them, but they can't read the results of the test correctly.
hmm,
So now he may be a sweetheart, he may be a nice guy or whatnot, but you keep poking the bear, and eventually his bad side comes out, and you kind of like it, but you don't get to put it back in now. Now this is who he is. Now you've poked him enough that this is who he is, and you don't always want him to be that way.
mhm.
It's hard to get the toothpaste back in the tube once you squeeze it out. That's just how it goes. I've never seen it done. So, I mean, too many of my sisters try to out masculine a man. Well, excuse my baby talk. They try to out nigga niggas.
Mm,
So,
mm, 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 mhm,
if
mhm,
you try to out nigga a nigga, only two things are going to happen. Either he's going to break down and become a little bit too soft, a little bit too passive, and let you have it, or he's going to show you what a nigga really is. You're not going to out nigga me in here. That's not going to happen. And that's what you don't want. So
okay.
I would say to the brother, it depends on who you're choosing. You've
Mhm,
got to be a little bit more careful, a little bit more systematic about the type of women that you are dealing with. But don't become abrasive. Keep that energy as far as being nice and being a gentleman or whatnot. The right woman gotta send you the right woman. So
okay,
really, most of the time, you've got to talk to God to see, what am I doing? Do I need to be more this? But God will send you the right woman.
okay, okay. I like it. I like it. All right. So, what advice or do you have any strategies that you would recommend to our listeners who may be, struggling to overcome like self doubt or like building their self confidence?
Um, that is actually pretty prevalent in
Hmm.
our community, and a lot of people are covering it up with a lot of superficial things, a lot of material things. The self doubt really comes from What is it that you feel that you're contributing to society?
Hmm.
What makes you, everybody that God has created has a gift. Everybody, everything that God has created has a gift. It's for you to find your gift.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times that self-doubt starts at a very early age. A lot of our parents, a lot of us as parents, our grandparents have done us a disservice and not built us up
Mm-hmm.
in a nurturing fashion in a way that we feel good about who we are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that transcends or carries over into our adult life. We never really get past that. So, one of the biggest ways to not feel that way is to get closer to God. Like I said, God has given all of us certain gifts. So once you're able to tap into the God, tap into your gifts, you can start to feel better about who you are.
Mm-hmm.
But in the meantime, it's about taking good care of yourself. It's about eating right. It's about getting enough rest. It's about getting enough exercise so you can feel good about you,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to trying to cover certain things up with making a lot of money or being the loudest person in the room or things of that nature. You want to have inner confidence, and that comes from who are you? What have you done to contribute to society? So to have confidence, you may want to become a mentor. You need to become a better parent. You need to become a better brother or a sister or a better uh, son or daughter. That gives you confidence when people care about you, when they look at you a certain way, when they can feel good about you being in their life or in their presence. That gives you an inner confidence.
That makes sense. All right, so let's see here. Marie says often men's meekness is viewed as weakness.
Very true. Very true. Um, it still depends on who you're surrounding yourself with.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it comes down to. Surround yourself with people who appreciate your meekness. You can't just run around in this world. This is not that type of world where you can just run around as a man and be meek. You can become prey.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As a man, you can become prey. So it really comes down to who is your counsel, who is your group. Like they say, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to raise all of us. You need a village around you, people who know you, people who love you, who will protect you, even protect you from yourself. You may be doing too much in a certain situation, and one of your uncles or one of your guys or somebody will pull you back, like, hey, man, you're doing a little bit too much. You know what I'm saying? We need that counsel. We need that group to help us grow. So,
Totally
yes,
agree.
sir.
Totally agree. Totally agree. All right, so let's see here because there's some other questions. So, like, now this is a big one. All right. So, what advice do you have for our listeners to help them like find balance and to manage like stress?
Uh,
'Cause I'm telling you, listen,
yeah,
I got some things in place.
it depends on what your stress is.
Mhm,
It depends on what your stress is. The first thing that I always say is you do have to turn to God. You have to pray.
mhm,
You have to pray. If you don't really have a great concept of God, then meditate. Same thing. You have to tap into the God inside of you. That's how you can even get to the God, is to tap into the God inside of you. And you were created for a reason. You have to believe that. You have to acknowledge that you're here for a reason, because a lot of people aren't here. A lot of people haven't made it. So the fact that you are here, you've got to tap into that and feel good about that. So take time with yourself. You don't have to be doing something all the time. It can be just a walk. It can just be just sitting back and reading. And one of the big things, and even though we're on this platform, one of the big things is to get off of social media. That will drive you insane. It's a
yes,
it's a very fake world out here, and that it plays on your spirit. So, and it's built to not It's built to overload you with
Mhm.
too much information, with too many things, and you can start to feel anxious. You can start to feel less than because you see so many other people doing this. You can look up and it's 2 hours, 3 hours later, and you just been scrolling. And now you feel guilty because I didn't take care of this and I should have been doing this. So yeah, stay off of social media if you can. At least take a hiatus every so often and just get out in nature. Get outside, take a walk. Call somebody that you haven't talked to in a while. You know what I'm saying? Just try to get into you or find people that you look up to, people that you think are okay. I like how this person moves. I like how they do this and tap in with them.
That makes sense. So what do you think about hugging trees?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, like
Absolutely. Hug a tree. Absolutely hug a tree. There's so much energy that comes from nature, that comes from just being out. And once you hug a tree, for real, hug a tree and just feel it, you can feel all of that start to come inside you. It'll actually help you release a lot of things also. Walk in the grass, take your shoes off and walk in the grass.
grounding, absolutely, absolutely. All right, so let's see here. So Marie says social media is truly the matrix.
Absolutely is the matrix. It absolutely, I'll be willing to say social media, social media has done our people a bigger disservice than crack. It absolutely has.
Yeah.
Because crack, there was a certain demographic that smoked crack.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
wasn't little kids. It wasn't the elderly. It wasn't just anybody. Now, and you had to go and get it from somebody.
Mhm.
You had to pay for it. You had to do things for that high. Social media is right at your fingertips. It's right at your fingertips. Kids, old people, anybody has social, and it's not frowned upon. It's not frowned upon to be on social media all the time. It's frowned upon to be high off of crack. Like, okay, you high. But when you high off of social media, nobody says anything.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So back in the day, if you smoked a lot of, if you, anything that you do in excess is bad. If you drink too much, if you eat too much, if you smoke too much, anything that you do in excess is bad. Then
Mhm.
they'll call you a dope fiend. They'll call you a crackhead. They'll call you an alcoholic. They'll call you fat or whatnot. But if you do too much social media, you get called an influencer.
Right. Right. Right.
So there's
Right.
no bad stigma associated with social media, but it is killing our people. It's absolutely, it's got everybody in a dream world,
Mhm. Mhm.
in an absolute dream world. And and I believe that most people would agree that right now this is Satan's world. I don't know of too many people who wouldn't be like, "Oh no, this is Satan's world," and social media is the voice of it.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Now there are some good things that you will find on social media, but a broken clock is right twice a day. So
That's real. That's real. All right, so let me ask you this. As far as what steps or what advice do you have for listeners who want to improve their relationships and communication skills?
honestly, read more.
Mm. Mhm.
Do
Mhm.
more reading, less scrolling, more actual reading, not just fiction or the little romance books or whatnot. Actually get your hands on some knowledge and do more reading. Not only does that increase your vocabulary, but it slows your mind down. It
Mhm.
gives you have to be more uh direct. You have to actually use your imagination when you're reading, which gives you a better sense of who you are and how you start to see the world. And you start to see how other people see the world without, but you're hearing it in your voice. When you watch TV and you watch movies and you're on social media, it's too easy because you hear everybody else's voice. When you read, it's like when we're younger, you create the characters in your mind. So that helps with your communication, believe it or not. So read, and if you have children, read out loud. Read out loud to your children. That will actually help with your communication skills.
That makes sense.
And it builds relationship skills because now when you're reading out loud to somebody, you get to hear yourself.
That makes sense. Okay. So Sam Jackson says your host is correct when it comes to the weight going to the gym to better their health.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And you don't
absolutely.
always have to go to the gym. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do around the house. There's things that you can do at your desk, but you have to be intentional and you have to be consistent with it. And you'll feel better. You'll absolutely feel better. That's a lot of people are going through not feeling their best selves right now because they're not eating healthier. They're not working out. And you don't have to, you know, just work out and just try to look like a supermodel or try to look like a football player or whatnot, but just to stay in shape, to feel good about yourself because we're all getting older.
Mhm,
That's the one thing that you can't avoid in life is you can't avoid getting older. And once again, we come back to this is Satan's world. So
mhm.
right now, most of the food that they're feeding us is killing us.
I see.
So a lot of times we may not be able to avoid it, but you can exercise and get it through your system fast enough so it doesn't stay in your system and hurt you as much as it could.
Mhm, mhm,
So it's a part of it. It helps with your skin, it helps with your hair, it helps so many different things just to exercise and be conscious of what you're eating. And everybody's different. I don't tell anybody to try to do this type of diet or that type of diet. As you grow, learn your body. Some
mhm.
things your body is good with, some things your body is not good with. You have to learn for yourself. You can't go on an Atkins diet or go on this crash diet. You've been and almost killed yourself
That's
because
true.
you saw it work for somebody else. So now you want to try it. You've got to experiment with yourself. Take away certain things, add certain things, do more research of what this does, read the ingredients, start to become more knowledgeable as opposed to just doing whatever. And a lot of times it's hard for us to do that because our life is going so much. And before you know it, it's like, damn, I'm hungry. There go Burger King.
Right. Mhm, mhm. That makes sense. Boundaries. This was huge for me for a while. Um, what is some advice that you can give listeners um, as far as maintaining and or establishing boundaries in their personal and professional life? Let's just add that, but I know that's a lot. So how what would you tell listeners um, to do to establish like healthy boundaries in their personal and professional life?
Um, the hardest part about boundaries is they're constantly changing
Mm, mhm,
and they change almost situationally.
mhm,
What may be a boundary for this person for you may not be a boundary for that person for you.
mhm, mhm.
So it's hard to just have one boundary and try to stand on it. You've got to be, you've got to love you. You've got to get very in touch with who you are and what feels good and what doesn't feel good. And be strong enough to once something isn't there may be a boundary that you have that you didn't even know that you had till somebody crossed it.
Mhm, mhm.
So now the biggest thing that you can do is it's only a boundary based off of the consequences of when somebody crosses it. If somebody crosses your boundary and there is no penalty to it, it's not a boundary.
Hmm.
It's a suggestion, but it's not a boundary. What makes it a boundary if you're on the highway and they put up those, the little they're doing construction and they put up a whole new wall. And now it's like, damn, it's a little bitty lane because they got this new wall up here because they're doing work over here. That's a new boundary. If you cross over that boundary, what's the consequence?
Mhm,
You
mhm.
tear your car up. That's what makes it a boundary is the consequence that happens of when it's crossed. So for most people, they may or may not have boundaries, but the only thing that's going to define your boundary is what's the consequence. When someone crosses that boundary, what are you willing to do to enforce your boundary, whether it's to separate from the person, whether it's to, I don't know, whatever it is at that time and point. That's the only way that it becomes a boundary, is because there's some sort of action behind someone crossing it.
That
So a
makes
lot of
sense.
people say that they have boundaries and people are always crossing their boundaries. I'm like, but if you don't enforce it when somebody crosses it, is it really a boundary?
True. Hmm.
And if your boundaries are constantly changing, today it may be a boundary, tomorrow it might not be. Tomorrow it might be a boundary, today it wasn't a boundary.
Hmm. Okay. That
You might
makes
let you might let somebody hug you, and then you don't want this other person to hug you.
So, would you say that maybe an emotionally immature person would look at that as like pushing the goal back? Maybe.
I won't say emotionally immature. You have to be honest with yourself,
Hmm. Hmm.
because you might want this person to hug you, but you don't want this person to hug you. But then the person that you don't want to hug you saw somebody else hug you. So now
That's
they want to hug you. You just don't have that type of access to me. So now you have to stand on that boundary. You have to be honest with that person and with yourself. I don't want you hugging me.
hmm. Hmm.
But then if you let that person hug you because they said you let that person hug you, now you're feeling some type of way because they let you, and now they've crossed your boundary. Now you go home feeling some, oh my God, I don't like it. And now this person is calling you more and this and that because they crossed your boundary and you didn't enforce it. And now you feel bad. And this, so you have to be honest with yourself. You
That
have
makes
to be honest. That's the biggest thing in any higher learning, any religion, is know thyself. Knowledge of self is the biggest thing that you can have, and you have to be brutally honest with yourself.
that's true. That's true. All right, so let's see here. So Sam Jackson says, I'm a 75-year-old and I stay in the gym 3 times a week just to maintain.
Nice. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You have to. You have to. My father just broke his leg. He's 84 and he's going through that healing process. The older we get, the harder it is for things to heal. So yeah, I'm learning now that even beyond lifting weights is flexibility,
Mhm. Mhm.
stretching more. If you stretch really, that's a workout. If you
Yep,
stretch good, that's a whole workout.
that's true. um so Marie says invest in your mind, body and soul and it will pay dividends.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
all right. Well, I do have one more question before we draw these winners, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Um, so let's see here. So what practices or habits do you think can help listeners with maintaining motivation and staying focused on their priorities?
You have to be, probably the best thing you can do is get into a routine.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Probably the most important routine that you can do is your bedtime routine. Your bedtime routine can dictate your next day.
Mhm, mhm.
So if you have a routine of what time you're trying to go to bed, I brush my teeth at this time, I unwind at this time, I turn off everything at this time, I pray at this time, that can prepare you for the next day. And the more you stay in there, so when you wake up, you have a routine also. I'm going to wash my face, I'm going to do this, I got to be at work at this time or whatnot. So now that routine will teach you discipline. And once you have discipline, that's the foundation of getting things done that you would like to have done.
Mhm, mhm.
So that's one of the biggest secrets, is that discipline. Sadly, a lot of us haven't had that discipline. That's something that's supposed to be taught at home.
Mhm, mhm.
And a lot of us have escaped that or didn't have that at home, where we did this type of work at this time and we did homework at this time and we ate at this time. That's why it's so important for home to have structure, so you can grow up with that type of discipline, so you can, with that type of structure, so you can discipline yourself without somebody else having to discipline you. That's why so many kids are out here just doing whatever. And I tell my young boys, I'm like, if you can't learn to control yourself, you're going to have to get used to someone else controlling you.
Mm,
In
mm.
Satan's world, you're just not about to be out here doing whatever. I hate to tell you, in any world, you don't get to do that, especially being a black man. You don't get to do that. So the more discipline that we receive as children, the more disciplined we will be as men. And that's the foundation of getting to your highest self is that discipline. I mean, and we all fall short. We all fall short. It's not like everybody just has this. If you discipline your kids, they're going to grow up, but you do want to set that foundation so they always have something to refer back to, like, oh, okay.
Okay. I love it. All right, so let's go ahead and get into because I know they've been waiting to win these prizes.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
they've
Yes,
been
ma'am.
waiting. They've
Yes,
been waiting.
ma'am.
Okay, so the first prize, let's look at the $20 off of a 60, not second.
60 minute.
It would not be 60 seconds. I'd be mad as heck. Like, look, Coach Boy, 60 seconds. What is
Hey,
that?
60 seconds with me is hey.
Hey, I've seen your reviews, and actually, yeah. I've experienced your massage many years ago. Like one of
Yes,
my
ma'am.
at a party, and you were there. Yeah,
Okay, okay. Yes,
your hand is
ma'am.
like anointed. Okay, I will say that. All right, so let's do the $20 off of the massage session. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so let's look here, and I'm gonna put the winner in the comments. All right, so let me
Okay.
really random. All right, because you wanted me to pick this one. So
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Please do. Let the lovely Lisa pick. Go ahead, Miss Lisa.
all right, so let's see here. Let's look. How about Nichelle? Now I got to say her whole Facebook name. Okay, Nichelle Unwritten Lines. All right, so she will be the winner of the massage. All right,
Okay.
so I'm gonna put that on in the comments. Okay, and we gonna reach out to you, Nichelle, not Michelle, Nichelle. All right, we're gonna reach out to you and get some information from you, and then we will set that up. All right. So now, Jason, I'm gonna leave it up to you for the one-on-one session, 15 minutes with you.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you want to choose the winner? Or you gonna have me?
I'm gonna have you choose. No,
You gonna
ma'am.
have
You
me
go.
do it?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know your audience, and I don't see everybody that you're seeing. So by all means, yes, ma'am. You see who's participating the most and who's participating in other shows or whatnot. So absolutely reward them.
All right. Let's see here. So the one-on-one session. Let's go with Tonality Records, right?
Okay,
AKA Maurice. You know who he is. So
my man. Yes, sir.
you are the
Congratulations.
winner of the 15-minute one-on-one with Coach Boyd. Now, last but not least, your book, right? So you're gonna have me choose. All right. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. You get to choose that too.
You're such a gentleman.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
It's not
ma'am.
dead. All right, so let's go ahead. I know who I'm gonna choose because her name is kind of like mine, but she
Okay.
got the JA on there. So Jaleesa Ward,
Yes, ma'am.
you are the winner of Coach Boyd's book. All right, I'm just gonna put book. All right,
Yes,
so we're gonna
ma'am.
be contacting y'all via inbox, okay? And we're gonna get some information from you, and then we'll set it up.
Nice, nice. Congratulations, everybody. Congratulations. I look forward to speaking and seeing all of you.
Absolutely. All right, so before we get out of here, let me log out. I'm thinking work. Before we get out of here, do you have any last words of wisdom for our listeners?
Um, Last words of wisdom. Oh, for my people who are out here, for my sisters, we start with my sisters. For my sisters who are looking for relationships and looking for a man, the first thing that you want to look for in a man is a man who is able to submit. He has to submit to something bigger than himself. That's how
Mhm.
you're able to hold him accountable. That's how you're able to see the true walk that he has. Is what does he submit to? and preferably it would be something involving God. But even if it's a Mason, he's in a fraternity, something, he has to submit to something. And in that, you get a chance to see his circle,
Mhm.
the
Mm.
type of people that he identifies with, the type of people that he uh, is with and gets counsel from. You get to see that. But it's best for find someone who submits to God. That's really the biggest thing. If he can't submit to God, if he doesn't talk about God, if he's doesn't have reverence for God, then you're pretty much setting yourself up for failure. And it doesn't have to be anything corny. He doesn't have to be praise the Lord in every sentence or whatnot, but he has to have some sort of concept of God, which means that there is something,
Mhm.
someone who's going to hold him accountable. Because just letting him freestyle is not going to be good for you. Something's got to hold him accountable. So, and do your research on men. Don't just be out here and just take whoever looks the nicest or spends the most money or gives you the most attention. Do your research. Women are some of the greatest detectives of all time.
Listen.
Do your research. Don't be scared to figure out. A lot of I've seen a lot of sisters not do as much research as they should because they don't want somebody doing that type of research on them.
Listen.
So they don't
Listen.
want them skeletons coming up. And it's like, hey, they there. They're there. You did it. Hey, so own up to your skeletons just like you want him to own up to his. And for my fellas who are looking for women, so the foundation for positive masculine energy is submission. Now, for my fellas that's looking for women, look for a woman that is patient. The foundation of positive feminine energy is patience. That is the foundation of it. Find a woman that's, you don't want somebody who is not going to be patient with herself, not going to be patient with you. That's what most men look for in women, because for most of us our first love is our mother or is our sister or our auntie. Somebody took time with us to teach us how to tie our shoes, how to
Mhm.
put on our clothes, how to walk, how to talk. And 9 times out of 10, that was a woman. And she did that through patience. So that's how we learn our affinity for women. That's how we understood how great women are, because they took that patience with them. So that's what you look for in a mate. You look for somebody, and that will bring you balance.
I love
So
it.
those are the things. If I can say anything, those are two of the things that we should be looking for as far as relationships. Those two things help us to create the balance that we need once we try to be with one another.
That
And
makes
for
sense.
my couples out there, find someone to talk to. Even if the relationship is going well, it's still good to have a counselor or a therapist or a mediator, somebody that you both can talk to.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Before you start to bicker at each other, before the tension gets too high, it's always good to have some money. Back in the day, we had our grandmothers and great grandmothers. It was always someone that you can go to who had a wealth of knowledge, who had the spirit of God to help guide you through almost any situation. And a lot of us need a lot of help right now. None of us are perfect. And we need the guidance from people who have been there, people who have seen some things and can help us on this journey. Because right now it's pretty tough out here and it's only getting worse. And
Mhm.
we all need some help.
That's interesting because, I've heard, married couples should keep it in the household. You shouldn't talk about your business to nobody. But I still feel like I mean, you have to have discernment, and I think you have to be careful in who you decide to, have your circle be with that. But it might be able to help you if you have that counsel, to kind of help you to see things that you might not be able to see because you're in it. You
It'll
know.
absolutely be able to help you. And most of us, sadly enough, in 2024, very few of us have been raised to be husbands. Very few of us have been raised to be wives. So you have to get counsel from someone who came out of that era or who has been in that position and can give you some insight on it.
Mhm.
We're not getting that from home. We don't have big mama around anymore. We don't have these aunties and these uncles who can, you know, when your husband is acting a fool, you can go to his uncle and be like, and he'll come and be like, "Hey man, what you done did to your wife? What's going on over here?" You need that. You absolutely need that because a lot of us have been flying solo for so long, and we've only seen everybody else be solo. We haven't seen good, productive relationships for any prolonged period of time. So all of us are out here freestyling. So you can only freestyle for so long. You need a producer that knows how to help you make a song, make an album. You can freestyle forever, just keep rapping to any beat that comes on. But to actually make it a project, to make it an album, to make it sound a certain type of way, to make it something that everybody can listen to and get what you're trying to put out, you're going to need a producer. You're going to need an engineer. You're going to need different things that's going to help you get the best out of yourself. It's not weakness. It's about getting the best out of yourself. And when you get that, then you learn. And now you can pass that down to your younger brother, your younger sister, your kids, your niece, your nephew. Each one teach one. That's how it goes. But we have to start feeling better about being taught.
Ooh, ooh, absolutely, absolutely. So, where can these listeners find you? Where can they find you? I know you got some. You got a way for people to find
Yes, man. Well, they can always find me on Facebook at Jason Boyd or Coach Boyd. I'm also on Instagram at Jason Armand Boyd. I'm about to start my podcast back up again soon. Called It's all about perspective. I've been a little bit busy and a little bit preoccupied to do that, but I'm going to get better at that. They can always schedule a coaching session with me or massage session with me. Oftentimes, I do a coaching session first and then a massage. I call it a 360.
you.
So you get your mental health and then you get your physical health. So, and in that, we'll do a sound session, we do meditation, we do breathing techniques and things like that just to help you get more familiar with yourself, more comfortable with yourself, more at peace with yourself, so we can grow together. So,
Love it. I love it. It's a few comments. Sam Jackson says, "Brother Boyd, you are definitely a pastor."
thank you, sir.
Marie, Marie says, "Men and women have to be equally yoked and submit to God." And then,
Absolutely.
see, Lisa, you need a dope producer. Listen, we already talked about this. I do. I do. Right? We supposed to be doing a collab in the studio, so
Nice, nice. What do you do? Sing? You rap? What you do?
no, not really. He gonna auto tune me. He gonna auto tune
See, you
because
might be able to just talk over some dope beats. You have a nice voice, so you might just talk over some dope beats.
thank you, Coach Boy.
Yes,
Yeah, see, you
ma'am.
hear that, Maurice? We gonna do a collab. I'm gonna talk over a beat, and we gonna make that nice, right?
There you
And then I
go.
might hit an octave here, and you can put some auto tune, right? Because I told him I want to sound like Kelly Rowland. I just want to sound like Kelly.
I ain't mad at you. I ain't mad at you. Kelly's the girl. Yes,
Hey, listen,
indeed.
she is.
Yes. Yes, indeed. I like Kelly.
All right, so we're gonna wrap this thing up. So, okay, let me go ahead and get it in because, like I said, my mama now be like, "Girl, I was listening." Mama, thank you for listening.
Oh, mom. Hey, mom. Hey, thank you. Thank you for
Right?
listening.
And my auntie, look, Aunt Anna, thank you. Right. And everybody that has tuned in, it's so many people that have tuned in. Um,
Nice.
we don't take it
Nice.
for granted. Thank y'all for listening.
Thank you
And
so much.
if y'all have not, listen, y'all know I gotta put it in there. YouTube, relationship soup, period. You gotta put the period at the end, right?
Yes.
And then on Facebook, Relationship Soup Group, come join us. The requests have been crazy lately. Okay, Facebook then took us off punishment. So we getting circulated again, and we still over 25K strong. We still strong, right?
Nice, nice,
Marie says,
nice.
"Hey, Mama." Mama Marie says hi too. And then, of course, on Instagram is Relationship Soup. Then there's Relationship Soup LLC. Follow me. And that's all I have for you today.
Oh,
So
I
let's,
do have a YouTube. I always forget I have a YouTube page.
yeah,
Look
you
for
better
Coach
say
Boyd.
it. Girl. You better,
Yes, Coach Boyd is. I'm on YouTube. All my past podcasts and when I've done speaking engagements and things like that, you can find me on YouTube.
yeah. Yeah, you
Yes,
gotta get
ma'am.
that going. You gotta get that YouTube going. Imma
Yeah,
be on boy, Imma be on you.
I'm kind of I'm not. It's This is different from me. I'm kind of a I don't want to say shy, but I'm not really a out there type of person. So I need somebody to help me get out there a little bit more.
Look, Imma do it because Imma tell you, like, my friends, they know who they are. Look, Imma call him out. Mr. Artest was on me. Like, "Lisa, you better get that podcast going." He had already started booking guests for me. I was
See,
like,
beautiful,
"Oh,
beautiful.
so that's what we gonna do. We gonna keep on. We gonna sharpen each other, and we gonna
Yes,
keep
ma'am. Help me, Miss Lisa. Absolutely, absolutely. I welcome all help. I'm not. I look. I bow down. I love your show. I respect what you do. I'm a fan. So by all means, I love the help. Absolutely.
absolutely." All right, so we're gonna get out of here. My last words is basically love yourself, and we will see you next week. Another dynamic guest and another dynamic show. We love you and see you soon. Peace.